You don't say yes because you want to. You say yes because silence feels dangerous. Somewhere along the way, your brain learned that being liked is safer than being honest. This isn't kindness, it's survival logic. People-pleasing isn't about helping others. It's about preventing rejection before it happens. Your mind stays alert, scanning faces, tones, pauses, searching for signs of disapproval. The fear isn't loud, but it's constant, and it quietly controls your behavior. People-pleasing often begins early, when love felt conditional. Approval followed obedience, silence followed disagreement. Over time, the brain connected harmony with safety. Conflict wasn't just uncomfortable, it felt threatening. As a child, you learned to anticipate emotional shifts in others, adjusting yourself to keep peace. That skill didn't disappear, it matured. What once protected you now traps you, turning adaptability into self-erasure. A people-pleaser's mind rarely rests. It constantly tracks reactions, interpreting micro-expressions as data. A delayed reply feels like rejection. A neutral tone feels like anger. This hyper-awareness isn't empathy, it's vigilance. Your attention stays outward, monitoring others instead of checking yourself. The result is exhaustion disguised as politeness. The more you defer to others, the quieter your own voice becomes. Decisions feel easier when outsourced. Preferences blur, boundaries soften. Over time, you stop asking what you want and start asking what's acceptable. Authority shifts outward. The mind learns that self-direction risks disapproval while compliance guarantees temporary safety. In tightly controlled societies, survival depended on alignment, not individuality. Agreeing publicly kept people safe. Standing out invited punishment. The people-pleaser mindset mirrors this logic. Your brain treats social groups like unstable regimes where one wrong move can cost belonging. Obedience becomes strategy, not weakness. Disappointing someone feels heavier than disappointing yourself. That imbalance defines people-pleasing. The brain exaggerates the emotional cost of letting others down while minimizing self-betrayal. Guilt becomes the primary motivator. You don't choose actions, you avoid consequences. Anger doesn't disappear when ignored, it redirects. People-pleasers often feel unexplained resentment, fatigue, or emotional numbness. The mind blocks anger to maintain harmony, but the body remembers. What you don't express outward turns inward, quietly shaping self-blame. When you adapt too often, identity fractures. Different versions of you exist for different people. None feel fully real. The mind becomes a performance manager, not a self. Authenticity feels risky because consistency might upset someone. Here's the uncomfortable truth. People-pleasing doesn't make you kinder, it makes you predictable. Others learn what you'll tolerate. The behavior invites imbalance, not appreciation. The mind mistakes endurance for virtue, while resentment quietly grows. The moment you notice the pattern, discomfort increases. Awareness threatens the system your brain built to keep you safe. Change feels dangerous because it risks rejection. But what you call peace is often just delayed conflict with yourself. Many people-pleasers operate from anxious attachment, where connection feels unstable by default. The mind assumes relationships require constant maintenance, reassurance, and sacrifice. Love isn't experienced as mutually, it's something to be earned repeatedly. This wiring turns ordinary distance into perceived abandonment. The brain responds by overgiving, over-explaining, and over-functioning. Believing effort can control outcomes that were never fully in your hands. Saying no doesn't register as a boundary, it registers as danger. The nervous system treats refusal as a rupture, triggering fight-or-flight responses. Heart rate rises, thoughts spiral. The mind predicts rejection before it happens. This isn't weakness, it's conditioning. Your brain learned that compliance kept relationships intact, so resistance now feels like self-sabotage. People-pleasing is reinforced intermittently. Sometimes it works. Approval arrives, gratitude appears, relief follows. That unpredictability strengthens the habit, just like gambling rewards reinforce addiction. The brain chases moments of validation, ignoring the long stretches of depletion in between. Each thank you temporarily justifies the cost. Without boundaries, resentment accumulates silently. You don't express it, so others never see it. From the outside, everything looks fine. Inside, the mind keeps score. Every unspoken yes adds weight. Eventually, exhaustion replaces empathy, and closeness starts to feel suffocating rather than safe. Cultures often reward self-sacrifice while discouraging assertiveness. Being easy to work with becomes currency. People pleasers absorb this logic early. Visibility comes from usefulness, not presence. The mind confuses being needed with being valued, even when the cost is invisibility. When anger can't be directed outward, it redirects inward. The people-pleasing mind reframes mistreatment as personal failure. I should have handled that better. Self-criticism replaces confrontation. This keeps relationships intact but damages identity. People pleasers often attract dominant or emotionally avoidant personalities. The dynamic feels familiar. One gives, one takes. The imbalance stabilizes the relationship while eroding the giver. The mind confuses predictability with safety, even when it's draining. Ask yourself this: if you stopped performing, who would remain? That question alone creates anxiety, not because the answer is empty, but because you've never tested it. The fear isn't loss of others, it's the risk of finally being seen without armor. People-pleasing creates the illusion of control. If you manage reactions well enough, conflict won't happen. But control isn't connection, it's surveillance. Relationships built on management can't provide safety, only constant monitoring. Healing begins when discomfort is tolerated instead of avoided. The first honest no feels destabilizing because it disrupts the system, but instability isn't danger, it's recalibration. The mind resists at first, then slowly relearns that boundaries don't destroy connection, they define it. Over time, people-pleasing erodes identity. Preferences blur, desires soften, opinions become adjustable. The mind learns to scan rooms instead of checking inward. When asked what you want, the question feels oddly foreign, not because you don't have wants, but because you were never rewarded for noticing them. People pleasers often carry emotional labor others don't even notice. You regulate moods, smooth tensions, anticipate reactions. The work is invisible, so it's rarely reciprocated. The mind interprets exhaustion as personal weakness instead of structural imbalance. Walking away feels cruel because your brain equates separation with harm. You imagine the other person collapsing without you. This belief flatters responsibility while disguising fear. It's not compassion, it's over-identification. Other people survive before you, and they'll survive after. Care respects autonomy. Control manages outcomes. People-pleasing lives in the second category, even when intentions are pure. The mind confuses harmony with health, avoiding friction at all costs. But friction is how truth surfaces. Resentment isn't proof you're selfish, it's proof you're overextended. It signals misaligned boundaries, not moral failure. The problem was never that you cared too much, it's that you cared without consent from yourself. Healthy conflict feels violent at first because you never practiced it. Your nervous system mistakes disagreement for disaster. But each survived conflict retrains the brain. Nothing collapsed. No one vanished. Safety slowly detaches from compliance. When boundaries appear, some people leave. That loss hurts, but it's data. Those who remain relate to you, not your service. The mind initially panics, then stabilizes. Fewer connections, more real ones. The real shift happens quietly. You stop performing. Conversations slow. Silence no longer feels dangerous. Power returns not over others, but over yourself. The mind learns that presence doesn't need permission. If this felt uncomfortable, it's because part of you recognized the pattern. You weren't kind, you were strategic for survival. That strategy worked once, it doesn't anymore. The question now isn't who you might disappoint. The real question is this: who finally gets access to you when you stop earning your right to exist? Sit with that. And if this hit too close, you already know why you're here.